People tend to think the natural state of the environment is what it was like when they were born and grew up. And in fact, it's continually changing because of human impact. That's an issue that's called shifting baselines. So one of the really important things is to remember where we actually are on the trajectory of change on the planet in our natural systems. And that there are times when the change is not just gradual, it can be a very dramatic shift, a tipping point. One of the more interesting ones actually occurred probably in the early 1930s when some farmer somewhere, nobody ever will know who it was or where it was, cut down the last trees that tipped North America, and particularly the U.S. part of North America, into what was known as the Dust Bowl. A real environmental plague, huge dust storms, basically ruining many farmers' ability to produce for markets. And it was only through an aggressive government program restoring some of that natural vegetation that the Dust Bowl was gotten under control. The difference between that situation and today is we have enough science now to see where some of these tipping points are. It really makes no sense to discover where they are by actually tipping them. So a really interesting example in all of this is the Amazon. A good friend and colleague of mine, a Brazilian scientist named Enéas Salati, demonstrated in the 1970s that the Amazon made half of its own rainfall. And that was a dramatic result, because up to that point, the dogma was that vegetation is simply the consequence of climate and has no influence on climate whatsoever. Enéas Salati's research shattered that dogma, and now we have a much more nuanced understanding of the interaction between vegetation and climate wherever you are in the world. Once we knew that the Amazon made half of its own rainfall, and that depended on a moving air mass bringing in moisture from the tropical Atlantic, and then moving westward until finally it hit the high wall of the Andes and produced so much rain that it generates 20% of the world's river water, which is what the Amazon system actually holds. The question was there, how much deforestation could cause that hydrological cycle to unravel? We still don't actually know the precise number. We had somebody do some modeling maybe 15 years ago, and the suggestion was that it might be around 30 to 40% deforestation. But in fact, that's not the only thing that's affecting the hydrological cycle. So widespread use of fire in the Amazon is affecting it. Climate change is affecting it. My guess is the tipping point here is at around 20% deforestation. And that's actually being taken seriously in Brasilia. That's why part of the Brazilian commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement is some major reforestation. Build back a margin of safety to avoid the tipping point. There